Hello. Today's story is called The Girl No One Wanted. That's rather a sad title, but don't worry, it turns out to be all right in the end. There were once two sisters, Rachel and Leah. Rachel was beautiful. Everybody loved Rachel. She was the life and soul of the party. She was always invited to parties. But Leah, she was much quieter, and really nobody noticed her, and those that did thought she was ugly. One day, their cousin Jacob came to visit. He was one of Isaac's sons, and he was in trouble. He'd cheated and stolen and lied, and now he needed to run away and he needed somewhere to hide. So he went to his uncle Laban's place and started working for him. After a while, Laban said, "Jacob, really, I ought to pay you." Laban thought for a bit and said, "Maybe you would like to marry one of my daughters." "Oh, yes," thought Jacob. "I'd like to marry Rachel, the beautiful one." "Okay," said Laban. "If you worked for me for 7 years, then you can marry. Well, Jacob worked for 7 years and he thought he was going to marry Rachel. But Laban was a bit of a scoundrel and he played a very nasty trick. He veiled Leah, covered her with a veil so you couldn't recognize her, which was quite common in those days, and got her married to Jacob. Also, it was a bit dark in the tents because, of course, they didn't have electricity. And so Jacob went to bed thinking that he had married Rachel. But when he woke up in the morning, he realized his new wife was in fact Leah. "Laban, you scoundrel!" shouted Jacob. He was really angry. Well, when Jacob had calmed down a bit, Laban suggested that he worked for another 7 years so that he could marry Rachel. And Jacob agreed to it and worked for 7 more years. And eventually he had 2 wives, the beautiful Rachel, who he loved, and Leah, who was not so beautiful and who he didn't really love. Poor Leah. No one loves me, she thought. My father's married me to a man I don't love, and he doesn't love me. Oh dear. But God didn't think that Leah was ugly. And when he saw that nobody really loved her or cared about her, he decided to choose her for a very special job. Now, God told Leah that he loved her, and he loved her with a very special, never giving up sort of love, God's love. And when Leah realized that she was loved, she began to feel better. And it didn't really matter so much to her about her husband and the other things. It didn't matter if she wasn't the prettiest. Someone had chosen her. Someone did love her. So when Leah had a baby, she gave him a special name, Judah, which means, "This time I will praise the Lord." And that is just what she did. And you'll never guess what job God gave to Leah. You see, he saw her as a princess, and that's exactly what she became. Because many generations later, one of her children's children's children, and so on, eventually was the Prince of Peace, the Prince of Heaven, God's Son. And this prince would love God's people. They wouldn't need to be beautiful for him to love. He would love them with all of his heart, and they would be beautiful because He loved them. And there we have a picture of Leah when she was happy with her children. That's the end of today's story, but there'll be another story tomorrow.